This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to speak with Kerri Kenney-Silver about the Four Seasons. How are you, Kerri?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What was your relationship like with the original 1981 film?
It's confusing to me to say that as an 11-year-old child, I was obsessed with the Four Seasons. But I think part of it is because it was on a lot one summer when I was 11. And that was the time when they would just sort of, they only had a handful of things and they would play over and over again. But I also think it's because I loved Carol Burnett, grew up on the Carol Burnett show. I loved Alan Alda. I loved MASH. And my parents had recently divorced. So I feel like I was looking for clues or something, but it was in there.
And did you know when you signed up for this show that it was based on that? And do you think that there's a lot in common or it's really very different?
When I auditioned for it, I knew it was a remake of The Four Seasons, the original film. I did not know that Alan was going to be part of it, which was huge for me. Also, he's a friend of mine, has been for since we did Wanderlust together. So that was a nice surprise. Um, Obviously, by nature, it's a series as opposed to a film. So just, that lends itself to more story. I never imagined that the Sandy Dennis character that I play, Anne, would have so much real estate and so much story to tell. She disappears a little bit in the film, and I just kind of assumed because I was not as big a name going into this that probably that would happen in this case too. So I was pleasantly surprised that I had a whole world I got to play in there.
It's definitely fun, but also somewhat uncomfortable to watch Anne, especially in the first episode, as she's just pouring out this genuine affection and being met with such not just like cruelty, but certainly a lack of kindness and consideration from her husband. What is it like to act in that, knowing what's going to happen and having to play it with such gleeful sunniness?
Well, it was, thank you for saying that because that makes me feel like it was mission accomplished on, at least in that arena. My intention was for people who had not seen the film or watched the trailer for the show to not see it coming, um, because Anne, I don't believe, saw it coming, and so really just tried to play the optimism and the sort of, I mean, she there was it was not a perfect marriage. She wasn't that delusional, I don't believe, but I do think that her sort of state of mind in the beginning was, this is our bed, we've made it, and for better or for worse, this is where we'll be. We've raised a child successfully, we've built this life together, this friend group, this families brought together. This will of course last forever, even though it's not perfect. That was what I was trying to convey. So hopefully a little bit of that came across. So it would be a surprise to all of us when he put the hammer down.
It was certainly a surprise to me as someone who watched a screener before the show came out and doesn't watch trailers before I watch stuff. It was definitely something that was new and that was nice, especially because, as you said, you assumed that might be it, no more for the character. And I think that we think that right off the bat, but instead we get to see, and one time is sort of an unfortunate coincidence turned deliberate plan in terms of her being there, but then also that, because they have this marriage, and especially this child, that's not the end of everything. They still have to be together. And I think that was much more deliberately uncomfortable in an entertaining way.
Oh, Tina Lang and Tracy do uncomfortable so well. I mean, it's delicious almost how uncomfortable it can be. The writing is perfection in all areas, but in that area, yeah, they do tension real well.
What parts of Anne do you relate to most?
I think oh, so many. I mean, we all said at one point or another during filming that we feel uncomfortably seen. by the writing. There are things that you don't want to admit about yourself, or about aging, or about relationships that they really put a magnifying glass to. I mean, I laughed out loud when I read the line, "I don't want to stay married to someone who has to take a few practice steps before she gets on an escalator," because that is just literally what I do. I think in the kind of living life with optimism, but also um, sort of feeling like a newborn baby deer whose legs are falling out from under them all the time. That's something I can relate to. I don't always feel full confidence or ownership of spaces and relationships and things. So I think that was sort of easy for me going in. So I can relate to so many things, but I think I like to think I have it a little bit more together in life than Anne did in that moment, anyway, in that moment.
You don't see a lot of particularly good moments between Nick and Anne. How do you work with someone like Steve to create this long-lasting relationship that is not, in its best condition anymore?
Yeah, and I met Steve on set. I had never worked with anybody in the cast before, and Steve I met just, hello, nice to meet you, and away we went. You don't see in the show, we shot more scenes of them getting along, but it made more sense ultimately for the story to get to the point of, that this is what's going to carry the story through, is this the breakup of this relationship. But so that probably helped that we got to shoot a bit more of them sort of day to day getting along. There's not a lot of hatred. There's not, pent up walls of anger. It's just same old, really. So we got to ease into that a little bit together, but you didn't see it. So hopefully you felt it.
This is also the kind of show you want to be careful not to turn off like a minute too early at the end, because I feel like if you do that, you're like, oh, nice little limited series. We're all done. Everything is great. But then we get that just like quick reveal. Did you have any thoughts that this could be something that would continue, or is more like back the original Back to the Future, where the flying car at the end was meant to be a joke, not a continuation?
I didn't dare to hope that it would continue, but Tina would say little things on set every now and then about, if we did a season two, this could happen or this could happen. I think going in, I assumed it was a one-off because it was based on a film, but because it takes such a different trajectory than the film, anything became possible. So then towards the end of when we started to get later scripts, I thought, oh, and then certainly the cliffhanger at the end made me think, oh, this, if Netflix wants this, there is much more.
You know what's next?
I do
Are you
not
not
know
supposed to?
what's next. I
What
don't
would
know
you?
what's I don't know what's next. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to know. People have asked me, what do you hope for? And with this kind of writing, I couldn't dream. I mean, whatever they come up with is going to be something that I would have never thought of that is exactly right. So, I mean, as the scripts were coming in the beginning, I was, audibly gasping while reading and crying in certain parts. And yeah, it's just masterclass. So I don't want to know. I just was with Lang last week doing some press in Austin, and uh, she said, we're just getting in the room, we're just getting started. And I was like, okay, I'll see you on day one. Just, I'll be excited when they roll in, but until then, I don't dare to imagine.
I assume the answer may be Erica, but who would you like to work with more that you didn't have as much of a chance to do so in this season?
You're right about Erica. But there isn't a person in the cast that this is how I described it to my husband when I came home. I said, there's not a person in the cast that ends up sitting next to you at dinner after filming that you say, oh, I wish it had been A, B, or C. Every acting with every single one of those people is an absolute out of body experience. I mean, come on. Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, Marco Calvani is just pure sunshine. But I didn't get enough time just by nature of story with Erica. So yes, I'm assuming the way it ended, there will be more of that, but you know, we'll see.
Oh, while you wait for news of what's happening in season two, what do you have planned? What's coming up for you?
Um, I'm my comedy group, The State, which started in 1988 at NYU. We had a TV show on MTV for a few years, and we've all continued in the business, surprisingly, making a living and still performing together. A documentary was made about us by Matthew Pernicairo, and so it's premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival. So we're all together back in New York City to for that premiere, which is, I mean, talk about a dream. You know, we look at our children. Our children are now older than we were when we met, and we're still in unitards dancing around in ribbon sticks. You know, with ribbon sticks, making hardy horror for people, and it's pretty amazing to have this new Four Seasons family and still have things happening for my, my childhood family of chosen band of weirdos with the state. Um, and then a couple other little projects and family time, and then getting myself ready for season two. Gonna grow a
Nice.
mustache. I'm probably gonna juice up and get real big, shave
I
my
was
head. I don't know, lots of stuff to do.
I was gonna say I went to NYU also, but I was born in
Oh,
1988, so I was not
wow.
there then.
Wow. That would have been weird if you had been there.
It would. It would. Although maybe that's what the Four Seasons. Maybe growing up a baby on a college campus. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
I'll let Tina know.
There we go. Well, what are you watching these days? What have you seen on TV recently that you really liked?
Ooh, my obsession, I won't just say watching, my obsession is adolescence. I am on, I think, my fourth watch of it. It's one of those things where I said to my husband, I'm going to wait for you to watch this. But then I started and I couldn't stop. So then I said, well, you can't jump in now. So let me finish. Then we watched it together. And then I've watched it. I'm on my fourth full watching of it now. My husband's a director of photography. So, it's enticing for him in that way. And, we stop and pause and talk about the brilliance of that. And just Stephen, Grant. I mean, I bow down to the script, to the actors, it just was it was mind blowing to me. So um I've been watching that. I've been watching Sirens, just finished White Lotus. I'll probably watch that again. Um I don't know, yeah. But I tend to dive into something, and if I love it, then I will watch, sort of study it. So that's where I'm at right now with adolescence.
I love that appreciation. And also, if you're going to have to watch something over and over again, I think 4 episodes at least is not, such an overbearing commitment. There's still a lot to
Exactly. And
activity.
that's what I said to friends and family when Four Seasons came out. I said, I don't like to be the guy that's like, hey, sit down and, watch every minute of this thing that I just did. But I would say to people, it's 4 hours, so it's kind of bite-sized to watch the whole season. You could break it up into 2 nights, and it's to me the perfect length.
Well, I will end by saying that I actually watched the Four Seasons with my wife. We were watching screeners before it aired, but I had to leave her behind and watch the finale in order to talk to Lang and Tracy. So she has since watched it, but she was not happy. But I had no choice. I had to, especially because, I'd be missing out on all this future talk. So I understand. I've certainly been there. You just have to, if you got to commit. If you're going to watch something, you got to do it.
You got to do what you got to do. As long as you don't spoil the ending, everybody's good.
Well, I so appreciate the chance to talk to you, Carrie. I'm excited for what's coming next, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.